Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 180 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Pasquale Veri.
And I am Claudio Spera. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Tonight's guest is an American rock music photographer, someone who left a trademark in the music business. Few photographers were as integral to the hard rock and metal scene in the 80s. I mean, come on, think about it. Ozzy, Motley Crue, Van Halen, Twisted Sister, Kiss, Rolling Stones, Madonna, Skid Row are among some of the amazing images burned into the brains of every music fan. His work on album covers and publications, such as Circus magazine and Faces, helped establish our guest as the name for rock photography. Kiss Army, please welcome Mark Weiss. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making yourself available, Mark. This is awesome, man. This is one of our dreams, man, to have in the show.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk Kiss and rock and roll and photography and anything you want to talk about.
When we had Bobby Dreyer on, all he talked about was you on the
Exactly.
show. So
yeah.
you gotta have him on. Well, here we are, Bobby. He's on.
Actually, I think that cutout was that from the '96 tour. That's my photo.
Really?
Is it?
Mhm.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Nice. Totally
Oh, yeah.
unintentional. I had no idea. So cool.
Told you, man. We're talking to a legend here, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, we often ask our guests when they first became a Kiss fan, but in this case, we're going to ask you the following. How was your childhood growing up in Jersey, and when was your first contact with a camera?
Well, yeah, in Jersey, I lived about an hour outside New York City, and it was just a nice suburban town. And really, my first involvement with music was with my brother because he had a garage band that played across the street. So that was my kind of introduction. And what I used to do is I used to mow lawns for $5 a cut.
Mm-hmm.
I was 12, and this one guy didn't have he used to cut his lawn. I used to see him cut it, and then all of a sudden, it was really long. Like his lawnmower was broken or got lazy or something. So I knocked on his door. I said, "Do you need your lawn cut?" And he goes, "I cut it myself." I said, "Well, it doesn't look that way." And he kind of gave me a little sarcastic giggle and he says, "All right, wait here, kid." And he came back with this camera, this Bell and Howell camera. And he said, "I'll tell you what, if you mow my lawn for the season, I'll give you this camera." And
Wow.
After about 8 cuts, he gave me this camera. And at the time, I mean, I had no interest in photography, but I thought I would end up hawking it at the pawn shop down the street for $100. And I figured, all right, that will make it up, But long story short, a few weeks later, I got in a motorcycle accident, a dirt bike that I had, and I was unconscious. I was in a hospital for like a month. It was a mess. And then I came home, and I had that camera sitting on the shelf, and all I could do was lie in my bed for the whole summer, looking at that camera, and just staring around the room. And then I finally picked it up and started playing around with it. And next thing you know, I bought a roll of film. And I went to my school that had a dark room, talked to the teacher. I said, "Can you teach me how to take pictures and develop film?" And he did, because they had a dark room there. And then I kind of got hooked. I developed the film, put this blank piece of paper in the developing tray, and it turned into this lifelike, a picture, which to me would look like magic. And it kind of hooked me. And I did that for probably a year until I got bored of taking pictures of my dog and family events and things. But then things changed when I started going to concerts, and so that's kind of like where it began, really.
Wow. It's interesting as you were, talking, I'm thinking if you hadn't had that accident, maybe you could have never become a photographer, right?
Oh, well, I wouldn't have. And if if that guy didn't not mow his lawn for a couple
Exactly.
weeks, I wouldn't have knocked on his door, and
Right.
And I wouldn't have a camera. I mean, unless something else, who knows? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You never know what you're destined to be. Maybe it would have. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And Mark, you were saying that you got into rock photography as a teenager, and you must have, some great memories. But I remember reading a story that you were arrested at a Kiss concert at
Right.
Madison Square Garden. How was that? What
Right.
happened?
So that actually changed my life in a good way. So when I was actually, it's going to be 50 years since I first snuck my camera into my first concert. And this Thanksgiving in next week will be 50 years.
Wow.
I shot Elton John at Madison Square Garden. John Lennon came out at the end. I ran out of film, so I didn't get that. But I was really far back. I didn't know much about anything. I just thought that if I took a photo, I could just blow it up as big as I wanted. I didn't know anything about grain or, that. So I learned a quick lesson. And in my book, The Decade That Rocked, there's that one photo, my first photo I shot at a concert, but it's very, it's a small photo. Elton was small, but it was my first shot. So I put it in my book and talked about it just like I am now. And then I started going to other shows. I knew I had to get closer. My brother brought me maybe 6 months later to see Eric Clapton for my birthday in Nassau Coliseum in 1975. And I snuck my camera in, and he got like really good seats, for my birthday. And I got these awesome shots. And actually, that photo that I shot 50 years ago almost was recently in a museum in Seattle, for a music museum.
Oh, wow.
I shot him in the Esso suit, and he was wearing he was playing his Fender Brownie, they called him, and they needed a photo with him playing the Brownie. And they looked at my Instagram and they contacted my office, and they licensed it for a year at this museum. So that was pretty cool.
Wow, look at that.
And then I started just sneaking into concerts, Peter Frampton and Jethro Tull, Emerson Lake and Palmer, Aerosmith, Queen, and then I used to take the pictures the first night and then stay up all night and develop. I ended up having a darkroom in my house, in my parents' bathroom, and I would bring him to school the next day, and all of a sudden I got all this attention. Go, wow, cool shots, because I was a pretty shy kid. And then all of a sudden I get all this attention. The girls were coming up, Peter Frampton, wow, can I have one? And so I ended up selling them out of my high school locker for $1 a piece. And then I used to sell them in front of the concerts for $1 a piece, and I did that, we're, hustling, and my friends, it was fun. I made enough money to buy more film. And in the February 1977, Kiss played at the Garden, first time they played, actually, I believe. And I snuck my camera in, took some pictures. And then when they came back in December of the same year, I had, a couple hundred pictures that I was selling. And I, was doing this already. And I just had you run from the cops because they, the shirt sellers were there. And they got me, you know what I mean? So I went to jail overnight. I had all my pictures. Like I was in this paddy wagon. I was 17. I was in this paddy wagon with all these guys selling shirts. They were like, hiding the shirts in their, under them, and there's me with this kid with, these photos. And then the next day they said, if you want your photos back, you got to appear before the judge. And I'm like, just don't tell my parents,
Just that. Exactly.
And here, I brought a bunch of contacts that I haven't even gone through. I haven't even looked at them in probably since I shot them. But because back in the day, I used to shoot a lot of color, and that's what the magazines would pay the most for. So the black and whites that I shot, it was cheaper to shoot black and white, and I developed it myself. And the magazines would pay like $25. So I would just take them, make a contact sheet, and throw them in the archives. But now these are photos that were never published. So those are photos that will be in my books to come.
Oh, nice.
And I just grabbed the files just to show you guys. So here's that first concert. Here's my shot of Ace.
Oh, wow.
Nice. And this is the original print from that I shot like 45 years ago, Here.
Oh, wow. Man.
Nice.
Let's see what else.
This is pure. This is pure gold, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And these pictures were never published?
No.
Wow.
The ace, one of the ace ones is in my book, because I talk about, like what I just talked about. That's in my book, because
Right.
my book is about how I got started, and up until 1980 is when everything took off. That's when metal was big, and I started working for Circus Well, I started working for Circus. I'm going to go back a little bit right now, or fast forward. After I got arrested, I went home and I said, all right, now what am I going to do? And I looked at the Circus magazine, which was the biggest rock mag back in the day. This is what it used to look like, Circus.
Oh, yeah, right,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
And I went in there. The secretary took a liking to me and said, all right, you know what? It's good timing. The art director's here. He's just finishing the deadline. Wait here. So I waited like 4 hours patiently, and I brought my portfolio in with me. It was in New York. So I got on the same train and got there, and I saw him, and he's like, I like what you're doing, but use this film, and gave me some little pointers. Because I was like, my photos are just as good as the ones in the magazine. This is a 17-year-old kid thinking that. Probably everyone thought they were the best, whatever they were at that time.
Yeah.
And so 6 months goes by, and I had snuck my camera into Aerosmith, who played at a Giant Stadium with Ted Nugent down in New Jersey, and I stuck my camera in, and I called them up and I said, I got some really good pictures of Aerosmith. He goes, oh, we need them, because they weren't letting a lot of people shoot them. And so I dropped them off. And then 2 months later, it's not like today in digital, it's like it's online the next day. It literally takes like 6 weeks before you can see it in print.
Mhm.
And 6 weeks later, like in this magazine right here, was the biggest picture in the magazine.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Steven Tyler, with my name like in the corner right there,
Mhm.
And then so that's kind of what it did for me. And then I started working for Circus and all this and that. But
Mark, I'm a high school teacher, and I often tell my students, things may happen in your life that could change your life drastically. So take advantage of every moment. Seize that day, because you never know where it's going to take you. You're just an example of that, a fantastic example of that. So many things has happened to you that you seized that moment, and look where you are now. Look at the stuff that you've accomplished. It's a great story. It's a fantastic story.
Well, my saying is, and I actually put it in my book at the very end. It's, if you don't go, you don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't go to that, the same like if Sebastian didn't come to my wedding, who knows? I don't know if
Right.
you know that
Exactly.
story, but
Yeah. Yeah.
if Zach didn't go and play this local club that my friend Dave Feld saw, that told me about Zach and then introduced him to Ozzy, it changed lives.
Mhm.
So you never know. So whenever I doubt myself, if I'm too tired or lazy, or just want to chill, and there's an opportunity that could be there, even if it doesn't happen, you'll forget about it.
Yeah.
But if
Mhm.
something does happen out of it, you never know who you're going to meet too.
Yeah, it changes everything. Yeah.
I mean, in 1977, while I was getting arrested, this girl named Susan Farrell was working for Bill Aucoin. She was the same age as me, maybe a year older. And she was Bill Aucoin's secretary. And so Susan, who later I met when I did in 1983, Bill Aucoin, who used to manage Kiss, was managing Billy Idol.
Mhm.
And he needed a photographer to shoot Billy's tattoo for his new stationery. And I had a reputation at that time. I was in 1983. I was already very established, working for Circus and other magazines. I knew Bill. I didn't, so Bill called me up and says, bring up your portfolio. I want to talk to you about a shoot. Went up there. And on the way down, I got the job. On the way down, this beautiful woman was on the elevator, who ended up, was the woman that was Susan Farrell, that used to work for Bill back in the day. So she knew who I was seeing, because she worked in the same building doing something else.
Mhm.
And we struck up a conversation. She actually said, what band are you in? She thought I was one of Bill's bands that he was managing. And we started chatting, and within like a month. We were like living with each other, and right now we have like 2 children. We have a grandkid together,
Wow.
and so
Wow.
she ended up being my wife. You know,
Oh, that's
Wow.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Wow.
I want to ask you a question.
that's in the book too. So I talk about.
Nice, nice. I want to ask you a question. I know the answer to this already. I don't know how old you are, and you've gone through so much. Let me ask you, do you have any regrets?
No, none at all. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
I'm 65. I mean, you do the math. You know, I was 17 in 1977.
Yeah. I've always said, I'm 56. I don't regret anything. Knock on wood. It's because, everything that's happened to you, whether good or bad, it got you to where you are today,
Mhm.
And if those things, like you said, those things didn't happen,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be where you are right now. And it's really cool, like even early on, you start developing relationships with musicians and their managers. You already got immersed into the rock scenes. So what were some of the major acts that contacted you for their services?
Well, it's funny you should say this will lead into what you were just talking about. So I kept in touch with my a couple high school teachers, Walter Reed and I would just go and I showed him the magazine when it came out, the Circus magazine, because he was a video teacher and he was into rock and he brought me to concerts back in the day. So he was like a friend, and I wanted to say, show him what I was doing. He said, you should talk to Walter Hatton, who's the film teacher. He knows someone. There's a guy named George Dassinger. He works for a local newspaper around here that is doing rock shows. You guys will probably be good for each other. So he introduced me to George, and me and George started doing local, like bands like Steppenwolf and Pure Prairie League. Like, no, not big bands, but I was getting photo passes. And I was already in Circus, but I wasn't really getting photo passes yet on my own. So we were like working together. And then a couple years later, or a year later, he got a job for Rogers and Cowan. And he started getting me photo passes. And then Peter Frampton in 1979 needed a photo shoot. Just someone like not a big name. He was trying to like low glow everything. Like, he didn't want a big fashion photographer. He just wanted someone to take some photos around his house with his dog and, on his trampoline and with his guitar. So I got hired by George, who I met through my school teacher. And I got this first big photo shoot with Peter Frampton and
Peter. Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like a game changer too. So now, this is 79 when he was like the biggest thing, and 77 Frampton Comes Alive came out. Mm-hmm. So that opened up some doors, and then he introduced me to people and managers, and the ball started rolling, and any door that was a little crack, I would like bang it down and just try to meet people and hang out with people. And all I wanted to do was meet people and hang out, and have friends,
Right.
I know it sounds to me like so much has happened to you, but so much has happened to you so quickly. When you were young, did you ever tell yourself, I have this dream and I want to make this dream happen? Was there a moment where you said, oh my God, my dreams are coming true? Or that just never crossed your mind because all of these events were happening so quickly to you?
Yeah, no, I never thought that, because I didn't know if I could make a living out of it. I knew was I was having a lot of fun. I mean, my parents wanted me to go to college, and I did for a semester until I dropped out after 6 months. I didn't like it. I'm not a learner like that kind of learning. And I told my parents, they're like, I'm working for Circus. I'm getting jobs, and next thing you know, like within a year, I got my own place with my friend and just just starting to travel and do everything that I do. So, I never said, this is a dream come true, even though it is, because it was a lot of hard work, and it was pretty much, it was just pretty much ongoing party for me. Really.
Go.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I would go from like, when 82, 83 came out, I was like, Dokken and Rad and Ozzy and then Motley. I would just go 2 weeks, stay with them on the bus. I'd have my own bunk with them. I'd, pretty much live with them for a week or two. and then just traveled from city to city. And then when they got big enough, they did arenas, and then we started flying in their private planes, like with Motley and Bon Jovi around the world, you know. So it slowly progressed, you know, not at a snail's pace, but pretty quickly. And then it was just I don't know, maybe I just took it for granted, but I knew I wanted to be the best at everything, and I was very competitive, and I was the youngest out of all the, you know, wannabe rock photographers or photographers, you know. So, you know, I just wanted to do all the shoots, and my goal was to do magazine covers, which I ended up doing for Circus. I did, and Faces and Hit Parader and Cream. And then I always had the vision of doing album covers, and that just kind of fell in my lap with this Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister, and
right.
under The Last Command by Wasp, Slippery When Wet, Cinderella Night Songs.
I have all those albums. Oh my God.
It's unbelievable.
Anthrax, I'm the Man, and Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Where will I go? You know, so it's just snowballed. And
yeah. You know, you just mentioned that, Mark. So you played such an active role in creating, you know, the visual imagery of heavy metal and glam rock, you know, in the 80s. But it looks to me that you got it right away. So you understood what kind of message to send through your images, you know, to teenage people, to young people. So was there a kind of a creative process behind to create such a unique approach? For instance, you know, the shots that I saw that you were doing with Quiet Riot, with Twisted Sister, how did you come up with those ideas? Was it because you were kind of living with those guys? Because your approach was so different to any other. So what was it?
Actually, it's funny you should say. I was actually inspired by a Kiss photo shoot. I forget the name of the photographer, but I was at a photo convention, and he had a booth, and he had these little, you know, card giveaways, and I took one. It was probably in the like 1980 or 81, so I was kind of in the business. I wasn't really doing photo shoots, really. I just started to. And the shoot had each of the guys in a situation. Like Gene had a volcano behind him, and Paul had some kind of scenario, like each, you know, like in Kiss style, like what they do. So I always liked that. And then there was a little bit of, like, the volcano had the smoke in there, and with a little bit of colored gel, and like that caught my attention. All this vibrant, you know, with the smoke and the lights. So then I took that ended up being kind of my signature, where I would shoot bands with a lot of smoke, and I would, you know, set up a black background, and to change the color of a black background, you just change the color of the gel, and then you add a little smoke, and it kind of makes it, you know, it's never the same photo. Smoke is always running around, and the density. So I always like the unpredictability of not just putting them in front of a white or solid background. So that kind of made it a little unpredictable. And you had to wait till the smoke would clear. So there was movement going on, and I just like the whole thing of not knowing what you're going to get.
Okay.
And I kind of took that to a lot of my covers, you know, like the Night Songs, like that Night Songs cover. I shot that in the day. I always say I shot day for night. And what that means is, like, the strobe outpowers the outdoors and makes it darker.
Right.
And the lights and the gels that I created with the purple gels fills it all in. So it's actually broad daylight, but it looks like dark.
Exactly.
Then with it Come Out and Play, with the smoke coming out of the manhole, I art directed that cover as well. You know, smoke is green, and, you know, it's just coming out. And on my YouTube channel, you could see The Decade That Rocked. And if you Google Come Out and Play Mark Weiss photo shoot, there's footage of me. It's the only bit of video footage of me back in 1985 shooting that cover, you know.
Okay.
Him coming out of the manhole, and the smoke, and Dee's, like, you know, mouthing to the camera. It's good stuff, and I talk about it a little bit. but
Nice.
it's just always the smoke I always liked, and
Okay.
I still use it. It's just
Okay.
something.
Okay. Did it make it easier for you to kind of use your, your tools and your technique because you were kind of friends with most of the musicians that you were shooting? Kind of, you didn't need to break the ice or anything, so the guys will do anything that you
Pretty
asked them to
much,
do?
yeah. Well, once they saw what I did with Ozzy on a lot of the shoots that I did, they kind of trusted me. Like, when I shot
Okay.
Ozzy in the pink tutu with the boxing gloves and him with the Mickey Mouse ears and all this other stuff, people loved Ozzy, and I was Ozzy's photographer in 1981, really,
Right, right.
So that helped me a lot. A lot of the bands opened up for Ozzy, and I would become fast friends with. But yeah, they trusted me, and I was just, I was one of them. My hair was
Mm-hmm.
long, and I
Mm-hmm.
dressed like them, and they dressed like me, and we just, hang out with the girls and hang out, we
Mm-hmm.
party. I mean, me and Dokken became really good friends. He would give me keys to his house. Same with Kevin DuBrow. When he was on tour, he's like, "You want to stay at my house? You can."
Right.
So it was that kind of relationship. We were
Part of
friends.
the family. That's right. Yeah.
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 I want to jump on what Claudia was saying, but really about Kiss, because obviously, Kiss is a very visual band, but really everybody and their mothers have taken pictures of Kiss. But there's something different about your work. It's like an instinct in your photography that I think most people lack. What do you feel you do differently in your pictures that other photographers don't do?
Well, we all do the same thing. We try to connect with that artist. So it's really however your personality is. If you're boring or you have nothing to say or you don't give them direction or you don't kid around or whatever it is, photographer's job is to make the artist feel comfortable, make them look as good as possible. And that's what I do. I like to try to make them look as good as possible. I know their angles. I look at their faces right away and I see what's the better side because everyone's got a better side. So I
Mm-hmm.
always tell them to look me and turn this way and turn that way, kind of like a science. It's pretty simple.
Mhm.
And then I say, okay, let's stay on that side. Some people are symmetrical and it doesn't matter, but it's the first thing I do. And I'm just meticulous. If the hair's out of place, I'll go in and do that. If they're not getting it, which some artists aren't, fortunately, the bands that I shot or the bands in the 80s, the hair bands or the rock bands and metal bands, they're kind of posers, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
They
They
they,
work for it.
they embrace it unlike other genres.
Right.
So I was fortunate enough to have a bunch of guys that wanted to be photographed and they wanted to look good and they cared about their image, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that came from imagery from the 70s, from Bowie, The Sweet, all these bands that I love, Zeppelin, so pretty much every band from the 80s that I shot were kind of taken from some band or a combination of bands from the 70s, like, the New York Dolls with Twisted and,
Right.
on and on and on. So I was fortunate enough to have that going where I kind of didn't have to do much, but I was just driving the ship. I was the guy that said, that's cool, but maybe that jacket didn't go with those pants. I'd be a little bit of a designer and, just kind of steer the ship and take the best pictures that I can. And through all that, what I'm doing, I'm connecting with them and they're trusting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, saying sometimes I'll kid around, and if their shoulders are back and I'm saying lean forward and they're not listening to me because they're double chinning, I'll go to them and I'll kind of like, like physically take them and I'll like bring their shoulders. I said, no, lean in, like, like you can't hear me. And then sometimes I'll tickle them or I'll whisper in their ear or something, like kidding around kind of thing. So it depends what I can get away with. It didn't work good with Glenn Danzig because he didn't want me to touch him. But you got to read the book for that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. Now, did you find it easier shooting Kiss because it's such a visual band compared to other bands that you shot?
I started shooting Kiss actually in the studio when they took the makeup off. It was one of
when the
the first
makeup.
shoots. So it's
Right.
1983. Vinny, Eric, Gene, and Paul came to my studio a block away from where I got arrested shooting in 19. That's where I ended up. My first studio was a block from the Garden. So they come over to my studio like one of the first photo shoots. And so, yeah, it wasn't like shooting Kiss. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I look forward to the day when they put their makeup on in 96. Like there's that, the cutout. And I'm also noticing in back of Claudio in the middle is my photo as well. It's from the same shoot,
The
that
reunion.
poster.
Yeah, yeah, the poster, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my photo. So
Wow.
when I did that photo shoot, I was like, all right, now
This is it.
I waited for that shoot. You know what I mean? But yeah, Kiss in the 80s, they were, you know, Gene had the hair was you know, I mean,
Different,
they weren't Poison, you know what I mean? So I had
yeah.
they wanted to be like, you know what I mean? They wanted to,
Yeah.
you know, fit in with what I was doing. That's actually why the management hired me, because they saw all my photos were getting in all the rock magazines, and they wanted to be part of it because I was part of the machine. So they started hiring me to do their tour books and photo shoots for whatever, you know, covers and things like that.
Right.
Now I know you've been a Kiss fan for a while, and you know, having worked with Kiss, did it change what Kiss meant to you as a fan?
No, not really. I mean, maybe if I would have met them in the 70s when I was like, you know, awestruck over their imagery and all that, when they were larger than life. But, you know, when they came to my studio, actually, I met Gene and Paul maybe 6 months before that when they came up to the office in Circus to let them know, and they covered their faces up with the magazines. So
Right.
that was a good moment. But, you know, when I started working with them, there were just four guys that not pretty guys. They were just four guys like any other bands, and I had to make them look good. And you know,
There's some magic there.
Mm.
That's right. You know, Mark, I'd like to explore on something that is not strictly related to photography, and you mentioned something before. So you have also been credited to be a big part of rock history by connecting musicians. So you mentioned before Sebastian. So how about introducing Sebastian to Skid Row? How did that happen?
I shot this band Madam X in 1986 in on the West Coast. I just got a call from Maxine, who's in Madam X. I shot them before when they were on Jet Records, who was actually Don Arden, Sharon Osbourne's father, had Jet Records, and Madam X had a hit called High in High School when Brett was the singer, and he had like half white hair and half black hair, and I did that photo shoot. You know, I was a hired gun for that in 1985. And then I got a call from Maxine, said, "Oh, we got a new singer. His name's Sebastian. You're going to love him. We want to fly over here, spend a week or two with us, you know." And I'm like, all right, cool. And so they flew me over and I did a shoot. We became fast friends. Everybody, I mean, you know, it was really fun. It was, you know, I met Sebastian. It was just a blast. And then that was it. You know, they loved the photos. They were using them. And then 4 months later, I mean, I really had not much contact with him in between that. But then I was getting married in 1987 in June. And I told my secretary, I said, you know what, why don't you invite, I mean, the wedding invitations were already in, RSVPs, everything. I said, why don't you invite that band, Madam X, that you know, they'll be fun. So she invited them and they came, and I had a wedding band at the end of the night. Zach was in Ozzy already, but he didn't record yet, and I'll explain how that happened too. But he went up there with Kevin Dubrow and
Okay.
so I think the Madam X guys, and then Sebastian came out and did a few songs, and from that, my friend Dave Feld, who's playing drums on a couple songs, and it was my best man, knew Snake and the Skid Row guys. Now, I met Snake when he used to come by the photo shoots when I did with John, because it was his best friend, but I never really, you know, never really hung with him, never really paid attention. He was just this John's friend that was there. He didn't, you know, we never gotten into any conversation, just said hi, hello.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really know them, but Dave did know them. And Dave said, you know, my friend Snake has a band. They're looking for a singer. And he got the tape to to them, and then they flew him down. And also, John Bon Jovi's parents, John and Carol, were at my wedding. Bon Jovi was out with Cinderella, or they would have been there. So, but I invited the parents. That we were friendly with everybody, and they called him over, and he sat down with them and had some dessert, and did impress them. And they also mentioned, he goes, my son John has a friend they're looking for a band, looking for a singer. So they mentioned that. But Dave's the one that like actually got the tape and sent it to him, and then then he came in. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And what about you mentioned before Zach Wilde with with Ozzy?
Yeah. So same kind of story, really.
Same story.
What happened was I was with Sharon and Ozzy. They were looking at this guitar player in Long Island, and Sharon asked me, because I did a photo shoot with Ozzy in New York, and she said, "Oh, why don't you come with us to Long Island? We're going to check out this guitar player. We're looking for a guitar player." I said, "All right." So they had a limo, and I said, okay. So I went there, and the guy was not the guy. And last thing I said to Sharon and Ozzy, I said, "I'll keep my eyes open." Yeah. And then the next day, I went back to my parents' house, and my friend Dave Feld lived near there. And I said, "Why don't we meet at Close Encounters in New Jersey?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm staying home. I'm tired." I'm like, "All right, well, I'm going to go." I ended up passing out. He ended up going, and this band called Cyrus was playing. And then the next day, he introduced himself to Zach, and he's like, "Holy cow, like you gotta,
you gotta see this guy.
You gotta meet Mark." He goes, "I know this guy, Mark, who's Ozzy's photographer." And Zach's like, "Yeah, right. Like, Jimmy Page too,
Yeah.
So long story short, Dave, was talking to me, and I thought it was like crazy, like what's the chances, like that's the guy, you know what I mean? Just that concert, at a local club. And I said, "Well, you sound pretty convincing." I said, "Why don't you bring him to my studio and bring a tape, and Ozzy's going to be at my studio looking at pictures, and I'll tell him to bring his guitar, and we'll introduce him." So, and I told Sharon about it, and she goes, "All right, bring him. It'd be nice to meet the kid, And Ozzy never showed up. Like, it was like he was supposed to keep coming, and like Sharon kept calling me and say, "Sorry, Mark, we're going to be there." I said, "Well, Zach's here." He goes, I know. Tell him we'll be there. Be patient. We need to look at the photos." They weren't going there to meet Zach. They were going there to look at my photos. So ended up being midnight, and they still said that they were going to come, and she's like, "Mark, I'm sorry." He goes, Ozzy was with, I don't know if you know Andre the Giant is, but he's this big wrestler dude. Yeah. And he goes, they just drank each other under the table, and like they both lost.
They're gone.
Yeah. So, I took some pictures, some Polaroids of Zach at the studio, and I put him on the cassette that he gave me, and I dropped it at the hotel, and I told Sharon, "Check it out." And on the way back to England, they looked at it, and they looked at the photo, and I know Amy, like she was only like, I think, 2 or 3, looked at the photo and said, "Oh, Randy," because he looked like Randy back then.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, and so anyway, Sharon, said, "Why don't you bring him over?" So I went over, went there and watched him audition a couple times.
Okay.
And he got the gig.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
But look, get it. That photo shoot I was telling you about, the first shoot without their makeup? Here, check it out. It's right here. It's a contact sheet.
Oh, wow. Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
1984, I think. Yeah. So,
man, history right here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
I'm just pulling up these. What's good about black and white is these are negatives for anyone that doesn't know what they are out there.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, but the youngins don't.
No.
Negatives is to have to develop them. But yeah, so it's like easier to show you pictures from contacts because the color, they're slides and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Here's more from that shoot, Paul.
So he must have a lot of
wow.
No one's ever
material.
seen. No one's ever seen any of
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
They're like seeing them for the first time. There's like tons of them. Like,
Wow.
Here's
Gene.
that's Paul.
There.
Yeah, they all look the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, and oh, I just came across these photos of Gene. I sent it to him yesterday of him and his mom.
Oh wow.
He was very close with his mom.
Yeah.
And here, check these out. I just literally.
Oh wow.
I was feeling a little, you know, because my daughter's having a baby, and my son's having a baby. They just got married, and you know, I just got back, and my daughter just picked me up at the airport. I was just on tour with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and then I saw these photos. So I was getting ready to see you guys. I'm like, oh, I gotta get some of these to.
That's beautiful, man.
You know,
wow.
So.
And I'm assuming he never saw those pictures before.
No, he didn't. So I wrote him a nice gushy note on, you know, he knows the story, but I got arrested, and then Suzanne Farrell I said,
right,
I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't have these photos of you and your mom if I never shot, you know, and I didn't get arrested and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, so. Knowing Gene, he must have been so appreciative of those pictures. So Mark, I want to go back a little bit to your album covers that you shot. So any interesting stories you can tell us about some of those shoots?
Yeah, the Stay Hungry album, you know, with the bone.
We're Twisted. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful shot, man. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that was a build set, and it was my first album cover. And what I found out later on is, like, you know, Dee never knew that it was my first album. He just assumed that the record company hired me because I had a bunch of album covers already, but the record company wanted a rock photographer, and I was doing magazine covers and things, but I never did anything this elaborate with a set like this. So when Mendoza, I heard, you know, I think it was his idea. They told me about what Mendoza's idea was with the bone and being, you know, hungry and all that. And they wanted this room, but the original idea was to have half of them in makeup, you know, and then on the other side would be without makeup, and then they'd have this, you know, bone in the middle, and that was the concept. Now the room that I built wasn't really suitable for 10 people. You know, I didn't take that in consideration, you know, and the budget wasn't there to make a bigger room anyway. But, you know, I just did what I did and built this set. You know, I had some people construct it, and I got some, you know, if you look closely on the back cover, you'll see like a little mouse on the bottom, and you'll see some, you know, the radiator, and, you know, it's all fabricated in my studio. And when they came in, they go, oh, cool. So we ended up doing the shoot. But when I was shooting the guys with makeup on, and it's the first time I met Dee. I saw Dee earlier in Jersey, but the first time I met him, and he was kind of not as aggressive as I've known him to be on stage. But I just assumed that that's the vibe he wanted. You know, I'm not going to say, hey, growl and
exactly,
bark like a dog or anything like that. I just figured, I'm just going to make them look as good as possible. You know, kind of maybe feel a little angry too. You know, get that across, but. You know, I wasn't really getting it. There was so much going on, and we had so much to do because we had to do like photos against a brick background, and we had to do singles. So there was the shoot was a 23-hour shoot, you know. Wow. So at the end, I did the shot with the guys and the guys in the middle, and, you know, individuals with makeup, without makeup. It all took hours. And at the end, I said, okay, does anyone want to do any more individuals? And everyone's like, as soon as I said that, like we were done, everyone just, no, we're done. It was like 4 in the morning. So they left, and then Dee goes, I'll stick around. I said, okay, cool. So Dee, you know, we're taking pictures, and I'm like, all right, come on, Dee, you know, let me have it, you know.
Get it out. That's right.
And I took the bone, you know, no one wanted to touch the bone. It was like rotting and smelly and everything. So I picked up the bone and I threw it at him, and he caught it, and then he started acting like an animal, like, growling and hitting the
Ah,
thing.
nice.
I was in my studio was on the fifth floor in New York City, and there's residents in there too. It was like it was commercially, but people lived in their lofts and things like that. So we got complaint. The police came, and here we are with bones and D and makeup, and that shot with me throwing that was the last roll of film. There was 36 frames on it, and the very last frame was D with that photo. I mean, there was other ones that were close to it, but that shot was the money shot. And then I just sent everything to the art director, like photographers supposed to do, and they ended up picking that shot at the cover, and they nixed the other one. It's supposed to be the 5 and the 5, where the whole band was on the cover, but it just didn't work. It didn't have the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And D, after I told this story, D was like, he goes, yeah, you know what? He goes, I wasn't giving it because I wanted to respect the band, because I didn't want to overshadow them. And he was kind of trying to be politically correct when he was with the band. Like, they had a meeting about it. And then when they all left, it's like, all right, what do I have to lose? I can do whatever I want now, and not feel bad. And that's when it came out. So that photo really rocked the world,
Oh, absolutely.
Very
nice
cool
story. Beautiful story. Mark, as we mentioned before, I remember when we had Bobby in the show, and numerous times he mentioned your name as the reference, for rock photography. And he didn't have actually enough words to express his admiration for your career. So, and this, I think, this is a good question that can apply to anything. After so many years, how do you keep your passion so fresh and alive after being in this business for so many years? How do you do it?
Just because I want to meet people and hang out with cool people. That's it. Just having fun. Even if it's a band that's a new band, even now, and they don't have money, it's like, if I like them and they're cool people, I want to make them look good and still do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the same passion as I did back then. Although now it's not as much pressure. I don't have anything. I don't really have to prove anything now. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Back then, I kind of did.
Yeah. Could you, looking back, could you have changed anything in the way you conducted your career? Is there anything? It's kind of connected to the, what Basque was mentioning before, any regrets, but I mean, now, you're well established, well known, extremely well known, you're a legend in rock photography. Is there some times where you think, yeah, I should have done this instead of that? Or are you still looking for room for improvement, for innovation, to do something new? So what?
Well, the one thing I regret, and I shouldn't really regret it because everything worked out pretty good, but I never really had a portfolio, except that one portfolio that I brought in to show Circus magazine. And that was just not even anything. But, for the body of work that I did, I never really had anything to really show as a body of work. I was always too busy, and I never found the time to do it because I was just busy creating. So that's why when the book took me 5 years to make, and a couple different directions with different writers and things, and that's why that was so important to me, to create this I call it my first portfolio of these are my most important shoots. These are like shoots that kind of got me to another level, that not just fluffy photos or anything like that. There'll be those books too, because I have a lot of books that's what I want to spend the next 10 years doing, is doing books. I want to do a book on Bon Jovi. I want a book on Kiss, with their working with them with it. Guns N' Roses, Van Halen. I mean, there's a lot of books I could be doing, and other themes. So it was such a lot of work, and I have to have the mindset for it. So I know I should be doing at least one a year, and I have to start and for something new to keep me passionate about what I do, because unfortunately for photographers, you take photos and you post them and then they're gone the next day. And I don't really post my live photos, every once in a while I might, but because I don't want to just post it. It only means something if you post it the next day, and I want to edit them and really do more than just that. So So in the last year, I came up with the idea to do this magazine when the Monsters of Rock cruise. I bring my books on and I sell my books. I do signings and I sell them, and they're £6 each. So I only can bring 100 books. But I thought, well, why don't I make a magazine? They're a lot lighter, and I can sell them a little bit more reasonable, and I can bring more on board. I don't have to, they're only a few ounces. So a week before the cruise last year, I was talking to my girlfriend, Mikkel, who does web development and design and art direction and very creative. I said, there's like 30 or 40 artists on the ship that I shot them all in the 80s. I think Ace Frehley was one of the headliners, and Extreme. And I said, let's make our own magazine, and I thought of a name, and I was like, and it was the perfect name, and I got it from my book. It's just called it Rocked, Rocked. So in 3 days, I gave her photos and copy, and we made pinups and centerfolds, and it wasn't like a big editorial thing, but we just wanted to have a fun thing and then bring them on board. So I sell them to the fans. I could do, if they can't afford the $100 for the book, they can afford $25 for the magazine, and I'll sign it. And the bands are on the ship and they're always walking around. They can sign them. And so it'd be a win-win for everybody. So we sold out of the 100. And from that, we started saying, why don't we make this like a real magazine? And we're developing that now. So so in the first issue, it's going to be like Kiss from the final 2 shows. I have photos from that no one's ever
beautiful.
seen. I'm just waiting to get approval from that to use them. And Judas Priest, Pat Benatar even. And what I'm doing is our tagline is, we're past is present and future is now. So on half the magazine, like in the back cover, it's going to be an old photo or a new photo, and it's going to be like a little bit more of like photo layouts, and then the other side is going to be back in the day, and it's going to be like, and it's going to be pinups and just centerfold. I'll show you. I have a copy right here. Hold on. So this is it. So this is all the artists that were on the ship.
Oh, so wow. Okay.
It's called Rocked.
That is so cool. Really nice.
And it's let's see, we have Queensryche, Slaughter, Faster Pussycat, Steve Harris, Y&T, Winger, and here's Ace was on it, so we did an Ace.
Oh, that's a poster. Okay.
Nice.
And we pretty much this is kind of, it's a simple layout. It's a pin up.
Yeah.
And then it's a little thing about the band, and then there's the band shot. So here's, Steve was on with his British Lion band.
Right.
Iron Maiden spread in there. Queensryche.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, Dangerous Toys. So,
right.
So,
wow.
So we kind of pulled it off, and so so this is available. We still have a handful of these left. These will be collectibles. I mean, we have it's like 20 artists on it. But if you go to you go to rockmag.com, ROCKED mag.com, and you can purchase that.
Okay.
And also you go get my book, The Decade That Rocked, at thedecadethatrocked.com, and I personalize them too and things like that.
Oh, beautiful. Got to check those out.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I'm curious. I'm gonna go back to Kiss a little bit. And talking about your album covers that you shot. If there was a Kiss record that you can change, which one would it be, and how would you change it?
Each one of their albums was a stepping stone to the next, and each one like had a reason for it. And it's like, if you changed anything, it wouldn't have got them to wherever they were, whether it was a low or a high or whatever. At the end of the day, it evened out, and every step of the way, believe it or not, it made sense, because you can't just keep, being a 10. You have to have some dips with everything. With me, like when grunge came along, I thought everything I did, it's like I thought I had it made, and I shot Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and did shoots for them, and they weren't interested. They didn't really care to be photographed. I was working for magazines, and so I tried to connect with them, but it didn't work, so I kind of lost interest in it for a few years. Luckily, in 1996, Kiss came back and gave that breath of fresh air, and a lot of the 80s bands slowly started coming back a little bit then. And then fortunately I was working for a magazine called Bravo, which is a really big German magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a lot of access to a lot of the pop stars. So I was shooting like NSYNC and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and Black Eyed Peas and hip hop. And so that kept me busy from 98 or 99 for a good 10 years. And in between that, 96 and 2000, CMC Records were doing new records with artists like Styx and Leonard Skinner and Eddie Money, bands from the 70s that I kind of loved, and I was starting to do album covers for them and doing home videos and things. So like that was I didn't have too much of a lapse and everything, because in the 90s when grunge came out, like Skid Row was still trying, so up until 93, for me there was hope that things weren't going to be going away.
Yeah.
But obviously it did. But I transitioned that. And then, everything just kind of snowballed again. And then I started shooting bands like, Sum 41 and Nickelback and, working for some different. So every 5 or 10 years, even though there was a shift, I managed to shift with it. And luckily, at one point, someone approached me to, try to make my photos like classic photos, like, like from the 70s, like, the Zeppelin and the Doors photos. And I'm like, my photos aren't there yet. You know what I mean? Like those artists, not my photos, the artists aren't there. It's just too early. It's like, 15 years after it, like 15, 20 years still. So I waited another, maybe it might have been like 15 years ago, I started rebranding. Someone invested in it, doing a show, which was successful. And then I took those photos and started having gallery shows. And that's kind of snowballed, took a life of its own. And now I'm on, I do books, now I do book signings, I do galleries, I speak, I'm doing photo workshops. I did a couple of those already where I'm kind of mentoring photographers. And
so actually you're going to be on Kiss Cancer Goodbye, right?
Yeah. So they asked me, I'm going to do a Q&A there, Kiss Cancer Goodbye.
Nice.
And I'm definitely one to sponsor that, because unfortunately I got diagnosed last year with bladder cancer. Okay. So I'm definitely supportive. Luckily I'm on, things are looking okay, even though you got cancer. It's not okay until years later. You always got to look over your shoulder. So, I'm glad to be doing that. And I'll be selling my gallery prints there too, and doing book signings, and have my rock magazine there, talking to people.
Beautiful.
So that would be fun. Yeah, for sure.
So, well, you basically, Mark, you touched on what I wanted to ask you. So, future projects, what you're working on, and is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't done already?
Once I have the headspace for it, which will be soon, I'm going to be doing a screenplay on my life, and I want to turn it into like a major motion picture.
Oh, nice!
Kind of like Almost Famous, that kind of thing. But my story and telling my story of the decade that rocked, from the 80s. Like, because I was at the US Festival, I was at Live Aid, I was at Hearing Aid, I was at Moscow Peace Festival, and I was at all these. So my life is like weaved through the 80s, and the 80s. A lot of shit went down, with Vince and when he had that problem, he with the manslaughter, a lot of tragic events, a lot of happy events, and I was there for all of them. So
all of it.
It's not about me, but it's about my journey and having everyone involved in it. So that's kind of my theme of my storyline. So I have it in my head, and it will start out as me mowing a lawn as a 12-year-old kid knocking on the door. So I have it all.
I love it.
And I've talked to a few big directors that I crossed paths with, and they're waiting for me to show them something. So, so that will be exciting. That I can leave my legacy behind. So my grandkid, I have an 8-year-old grandson, and I have 2 on the way. When they're old enough to understand it, I'm not going to be here forever. So it'd be kind of cool to have like a movie that they can show their friends,
Right. I have only two quick questions before I let you go, and this is related to what you have on the background. There's a picture of a little Gene Simmons there.
Oh.
So is that you? No.
That's my son. That's my
Oh,
wow.
my
31-year-old son here.
Very nice.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. And the other is the mask that you have on your right. That's from the Metal Health.
Yeah, that's
cover?
that's not the real cover. It's like the Halloween version of it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Super nice.
I have all my, like, if I turn this around, which I can't, but I have all my tour jackets, Cinderella, Van Halen, Twisted, Kiss, Bon Jovi hanging up. It's like a little museum in here.
Nice.
Very cool.
Your cave.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I got my cell phone here that
1980s.
Yeah, well, this, one of the first photos that I shot with something like this was with Axl Rose. It's in my book. He's like talking on the phone. This phone was like the first phone I would make a call on, Axl's phone. This isn't the phone, but it looked just like it.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah, but here's why don't I I'll just give you a little show. These are just some prints I found. I can show you. I don't know what they are, but here's Gene, 1987, when I think Ace played the Limelight and Paul came out.
Nice.
They hung out, so I was there taking some pictures.
You were there, okay.
Yeah, and Gene came, and sometimes the band would individually, they'd come over to my studio for something not related to the band. Like Gene was getting into acting, so he wanted me to take some acting pictures.
Oh, cool.
Same with Paul. He came by for some acting, doing that kind of stuff too.
Well, you definitely have material for a Kiss book.
Several.
It's just so much work, but you gotta want to do it. You gotta want to do it.
So, Mark, before we close the curtain on this episode, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Anything you wanna promote? Let our listeners know.
Well, my rock magazine, definitely. Check it out. And even just sign up on the mailing list. So when the first official magazine comes out, which will be pretty cool, and there'll be some Kiss layout in there. So check that out. The Decade That Rocked, my book here. It's a big book, 6 pounds.
Wow.
And there's a lot of Kiss in here too.
How can people get it?
And there's also gatefolds in. There's 3 gatefolds.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So, they can get it. Go to thedecadethatrocked.com, and you can buy it there, and I'll sign it. Personalize it. Makes a good present. If anyone's interested in signing up, doing a workshop, I don't have anything set now, but if you send me an email, you can just go to thedecadethatrocked.com. There's an email on there and say, I'm interested. I live in Chicago or wherever. And I'll let you know when I'm doing that. And for my rock magazine, really we're encouraging, because I photograph bands that I like and that I like to shoot, but I can't be everywhere. And what I want to encourage is it's where past is present, where future is now. So I am looking to expose a lot of the newer bands that have rock in them, and if new photographers and journalists. So if anyone thinks that, you know, my pictures are just as good as his, or my writing is just as good as his or hers, you know, send us an email, or, you know, reach out, and we'll get back to you when we're ready. We're taking submissions, and
There you go.
I'll kind of like sit back and edit and give some pointers, and from where help you get a photo pass, and hopefully one day we'll, you know, you'll make some money doing this stuff. So you can, if you're interested in that, just go to GetRocked@rockedmag.com. So it's, you know, GETROCKED at ROCKED mag.com.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things I'm kind of pushing right now. And I have gallery prints. If you want to purchase my gallery prints, you can go there on my decadethatrock.com. There's prints. You hit prints, and there's A through Z. You can do that too.
Beautiful.
Also, my photos are on Morrison Hotel Gallery and at the Wentworth Gallery as well.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Well, Mark, you know, we can't thank you enough, man, for your time. This has been it's one of our dreams, man. So believe it or not, you know, having you on the show, we always wanted to have the chance to talk to you and go through rock history with you. You know, you were making history, still making history. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Right. Oh, and like December 6th, there's going to be this great KISS convention where Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer are going to be there, and they're going to be playing some of the album. Pretty cool stuff. So I'll be there too, doing the Q&A. There's tickets still available. It's in Sarasota, Florida, so it's going to be nice and warm.
Yeah.
And I like to leave with this one thing. When I was going, I just did a gallery show on the West Coast with my friends over at the X5 podcast. It's a really cool podcast called the X5 podcast, and it's very eclectic. They do you know, sports guys, podcasters, rock photographers. They interviewed me. That's why I met them, and rock stars. So they sponsored a gallery show I did with Billy Morrison, and he painted some photos that his interpretation of my photos. So we had a big old party, and Billy Idol came to the show. You know, Billy Morrison is Billy Idol's guitar player. Billy Idol played Rebel Yell at the show. So there's so we did that, and as I was there, I came across this kid across my Instagram. He just popped up, and I met him in LA, and I told him to come by, told his father to bring him by, and I did a photo shoot with this kid. He's only 8 years old. His name's Ryder B. And I thought this kid was cool as hell. You know, he plays all cool songs like Iggy Pop and Guns N' Roses and the Misfits. Like, this kid is so cool. So I did a photo shoot at Sunset Marquee. Actually, Billy Corrigan came behind me when I was shooting, because he was there too, and gave Ryder a thumbs up.
Okay.
And while I was shooting, I didn't find out until afterwards, you know, and it was one of Ryder's heroes. And he's endorsed by a lot of people, you know, like Slash gives him props, and he was on the Kelly Clarkson show, and he's really blowing up. And he's already playing the Whiskey like once a month.
Seriously? Oh my God.
Yeah, and he's playing Detroit. He just turned 9 yesterday, and became fast friends with him and the family. The parents are great, and just helping him out as much as I can. And so I'm telling you, when we get off, go on Instagram or TikTok and just put in Ryder B, RYDERB.
Okay.
Sure.
And yeah, it's fun stuff. You won't be able to get your eyes off him. He's like a reincarnation of, like, you know, Kurt Cobain, or
wow.
You know, it's pretty crazy.
Nice. So, you know, I just want to end the show by saying again, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. And, you know, you have a true talent for your craft, for your photography. That's because you've got so much passion for what you do, and you're a people person. Your photos are amazing pictures because you connect with your subject, with the people that you're shooting, and that's what I think makes your pictures so special, and that's what makes you special as a photographer. And like Claudia was saying, it was our honor to have you on the show, and again, to know you a lot better and your work. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Had a nice chat.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Mark. Thank you.
To the KISS Army, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please send it to talktome@kissarmynationpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe and support the amazing guests we have on the show. Till the next time, remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X. You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Podomatic, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. This is about you, so please like and subscribe to support the amazing guests we have on the show. See you soon, KISS Army.